Since the arrival of Apple Pay, many FIs have been wondering whether and how to support mobile payments for their Android customers. In recent months, Apple Pay has been joined by the launches of both Android Pay and Samsung Pay. Each of these mobile payment plays brings its own set of pros and cons for issuers. So, how do these mobile payment schemes compare? And should your institution support one, some, or maybe none of these mobile payment plays? Stay tuned to find out. Hi, my name is Lee Wetherington and I'm Director of Strategic Insight at Jack Henry & Associates. Thanks for taking a few minutes to watch this executive briefing on understanding payments for executives, mobile payment options, Apple Pay versus Android Pay versus Samsung Pay. Recently, Google launched Android Pay, a native mobile payment function integrated inside of the Android mobile operating system. Android Pay works with all near-field communication, or NFC, enabled Android devices, those running Android version 4.4 or later, and on any mobile carrier. Android Pay is now pre-installed on all new Android phones sold through Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. Like Apple Pay, Android Pay is a tokenized form of mobile payments that replaces the card's primary account number with a digital substitute, or token, and transmits that token to the point of sale with near-field communication, or NFC. Like Apple Pay, a fingerprint may be used to authenticate an Android Pay transaction. But since not all Android phones have fingerprint scanners, Android Pay transactions may also be authenticated using a device PIN, a password, or a pattern unlock. Issuers must sign up and enable their cards for use with Android Pay. And the good news is that financial institutions that have already tokenized their cards for Apple Pay don't have to duplicate their tokenization work for Android Pay. Rather, issuers can use their existing tokenization arrangements with MasterCard or Visa. Unlike Apple Pay, which stores tokens within a physical secure element inside the iPhone, Android Pay uses something called host card emulation, or HCE, and stores tokens in the cloud. To ensure against instances in which the Android device can't access that cloud while at the point of sale, a limited number of tokens will be stored locally on the phone. Google hasn't addressed exactly where or how these pre-staged tokens will be secured. And here's some good news. Unlike Apple Pay, which collects half a cent on each debit card transaction and 15 basis points on each credit card transaction, Google collects no fees from issuers, and issuers pay no tokenization fees to Visa or MasterCard. Perhaps the biggest technical advantage of Android Pay is that issuers may integrate mobile payments into their mobile banking apps, something not currently possible with Apple Pay. The real question and concern, however, is whether issuers' payments data will be exploited by Google. While Apple does not see, store, analyze, or exploit Apple Pay transaction data, Google has made no such assurances regarding Android Pay. Moreover, Google's entire business model centers on leveraging data to bolster its ad sales. And since payments data is the most valuable data in the era of big data, issuers should exercise extreme caution with Google. And what about Samsung Pay? Like Android Pay, Samsung Pay offers tokenized NFC mobile payments, but only on Samsung's line of phones and devices, the Galaxy S6, S6 Edge, S6 Edge Plus, and Note 5 devices specifically. Similar to Apple Pay, Samsung Pay uses fingerprint identification to authenticate transactions. And like Android Pay, Samsung collects no fees from issuers, and issuers pay no tokenization fees to Visa and MasterCard. Unlike both Apple Pay and Android Pay, Samsung Pay does not support in-app purchases and payments. Neither does Samsung Pay support and integrate loyalty and rewards programs like Android Pay does. That said, Samsung Pay offers one huge technical advantage over both Apple Pay and Android Pay. Whereas Apple and Android Pay can only be accepted at NFC-enabled point-of-sale terminals, Samsung Pay uses a patented technology called magnetic secure transmission to communicate with standard swipe terminals, and it is therefore accepted at over 90% of point-of-sale terminals in the United States. whereas Apple Pay and Android Pay are accepted at the 10% of terminals nationally that are NFC enabled currently. For issuers, there are three primary considerations that must inform whether and when to support any of these mobile payment schemes. First, does supporting these schemes meet a demonstrated demand among the customers you serve? Second, does supporting these schemes outweigh the data privacy concerns with Android Pay and Google? The costs of Apple Pay, or the security concerns surrounding pre-staged tokens with both Android and Samsung Pay? And finally, how will supporting these schemes impact your institution's long-term mobile banking offering? Put another way, why not offer your own native mobile payment functionality as a part of your mobile banking offering, just as Capital One recently announced? The technical and strategic differences among the current stall of mobile payment schemes are important. Understanding these differences is crucial to making the right decisions about when and whether to support them, both short and long term. Thank you for joining me for this executive briefing on understanding payments for executives, mobile payment plays, Apple Pay versus Android Pay versus Samsung Pay.